welcome to the webinar series hosted by Happiest Health. I'm Dipali Malya, and I will be your host for today's session as we discuss gut saboteurs, identifying and avoiding gut microbiome disruptors. They say gut is the building block of everything. It is the key player when it comes to your digestion, your body functions, absorbing nutrients, and whatnot. Our today's webinar will be an eye-opener for understanding everything about gut health, what one must eat for having a good gut, what one must avoid for not having a bad gut, the prebiotic, postbiotic foods that would help you, much, much more. I'm sure towards the end of this webinar, you would be much more informed everything about gut. And probably you may also find your answer to the question, is there really a gut instinct? First up, we have with us today Dr. Yogesh Shouche. Dr. Yogesh Shouche is a renowned Indian microbiologist. Currently, he's the Deputy Director, SKAN Research Trust, Bangalore, and Honorary Scientist, National Center for Cell Science, Pune, NCCS, Bangalore. His research in microbiology spans around 3 decades and encompasses diverse areas, including lakes, houseflies, and of course, human beings. At NCCS Pune, he initiated the Indian Human Microbiome Project, an ambitious pan-India effort to characterize the gut microbiome profiles across 17 communities across India's diverse landscape. When completed, this would be the first ever study of the unique Indian microbiome and an invaluable data treasure for future research in the field. We welcome you, Dr. Shouche. Our next panel member is Professor Mojibur R. Khan. Professor Khan is a research scientist at the Institute of Advanced Study in Science and Technology, IASST in Guwahati. Dr. Khan specializes in the effects that various dietary components have on the gut microbiota, ranging from alcohol, edible mushrooms, and also fermented food. Some of his prominent research works include analyzing the impact of daily consumption of fermented beverages on the gut bacteria. One of his recent achievements includes the discovery of the next generation probiotic bacterium isolated from a dairy product with potential for promoting healthy aging. He's one of the pioneers to research whatever we know about the Indian microbiome, with studies on the traditional fermented soybeans of Northeast India. When it comes to the complex interplay between diet, microbiota, and overall well-being, he's the respected voice in the field. Without much ado, we welcome you, Dr. Mojibur Khan.
Thank you, ma'am.
To begin our discussion, we begin with various questions about gut health, what's good, what's not good. Meanwhile, I request the audience to post all your queries in the chat box. We will take up all the queries and address this. Our expert panel members will answer the questions in the Q&A session towards the end. Let me first go to Dr. Shouche. Dr. Shouche, for those who are new to the topic on gut microbiome, could you briefly tell us how the microbiome affects our digestive and also overall health?
Yeah, so that's a very important question, and although we knew about existence of gut microbiome since many years, in the last 2 decades, our understanding has become more, especially because of the advent of what we call as next generation sequencing technologies. And what we understand from that is not only gut, but many organs of our body are host to trillions of bacteria. And these bacteria are not there just accidentally, but they perform very important functions in our body. And not only in gut, but in other parts also, they perform very vital functions, which are important, and most important thing, their importance lies in the fact that over the millions of years, these microbes have co-evolved. So it's a kind of synergistic association between microbes in our body parts and ourselves, where we help each other. So they help us in variety of ways. Most importantly, when we talk about gut, they digest some of the components of our food which we are ourselves unable to digest, like the sugars in fruits, pectin, like which is present in apples and bananas, and they also produce many vitamins and amino acids which we ourselves are unable to produce. So that is just a minor component of that. Besides, they produce many other health promoting compounds which are beneficial for our growth. And today the science tells us that they also produce compounds that affect the development of brain. So there is a huge effect these microbes and have on our physiology and in turn on our health. So there is no aspect of human behavior and health which is not untouched by microbes.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Shouche. Now, moving on to Dr. Khan. I would like to know from you, can you explain the concept of dysbiosis and how it relates to the gut health? And what are those signs that, might be, your body might be experiencing dysbiosis?
Yeah, thank you so much. Shouche sir has already mentioned how the microbes have been associated with human body, like they have not been here accidentally. There is a purpose, and now we are slowly understanding the so beautiful science, how they have evolved the human being, and then what is the balance and what is the imbalance. And in many cases, we know what is the imbalance and how it is linked to different diseases, but in so many cases, we don't know. But if you look at generally about dysbiosis in different conditions, so there is a common pattern that you will find that the overall diversity will be low compared to in a balanced one. A balanced one we call is in a homeostasis or in an equilibrium, where you have a diverse group of microbes living together with synergistic and in some way maintaining the functioning, and we call it in an equilibrium or in a homeostatic state. When there is a dysbiosis, there is a sense that the number of the diversity will go down. The numbers in the types of microbes will be going down, or in terms of genera, in terms of species maybe. And then you will see some kind of symptoms in some cases. There may be more abundance of the pathogens, but like common thing that you will observe, like in normal dysbiosis, we understand then there may be increase in helicobacter, like and ulcers or some gastrointestinal. Like if we are talking about the gut bacteria, then there will be some problem with the with the GI, like GI common problems like bloating. There may be constipation, and very clear classical examples I can give you about, like IBD, inflammatory bowel diseases. There are two types. Like one is called ulcerative colitis. Then you have again the Crohn's disease. There's an inflammation in your intestine in different locations, and accordingly the name is different. Then you have one more syndrome. It's called irritable bowel syndrome. So these two are very classical example, like that have been linked with your dysbiosis in the gut. And then the symptoms, like it may vary. So overall, like you may have diarrhea, you may have sometimes constipation, you may have bloating, and then there may be some other manifestations depending upon the type of dysbiosis you have. And also these dysbiotic conditions have been linked to specific diseases if you have this dysbiosis in a specific manner. So this is a broad term, very broad term, but you will see changes in the bowel movement, and then also you may have some secondary indications, like if you have, there may be some other complications that is linked with your gut dysbiosis, like stress, then your mood swing. Social has already mentioned, like how your well-being, mental well-being, brain functioning, everything is connected with your gut microbes. Now, if there is a dysbiosis, obviously you will see symptoms arising from gut to brain in behavior and everywhere. Yeah.
Very interesting. Dr. Shouche, I would want to go back to asking you the question on, you mentioned about sugar and, apple peptins. Now, what about the processed food, sugary drinks, aerated drinks? What kind of an impact do they have on the gut health? Can you explain that, please?
Yeah. So, you know very well that all these aerated drinks, sugary drinks, high fat food, it is bad for health. It is disaster. The way it is in general disaster for our health, it is disaster for our gut microbes also. So, I mean, if I had to oversimplify it, I would say that these foods, they kill the good bacteria and they encourage the bad bacteria to grow. And that is one of the factors why today we have increase in what we call as lifestyle disorders. And historically, if you see the course of evolution, this has today been done by cross-sectional studies, and also looking at some of the fossils people have studied, that as humanity moved from hunter-gatherer to agricultural to industrialized population, the gut microbiome also evolved, and it evolved in a bad way. So in this journey, we lost the good microbes in our gut and the bad microbes increased, and that has had disastrous consequences on our health. And today, if you again, there are some tribes which are not affected by these. You can go back and see those tribes. You will find that their microbiome is rich, very diverse, and it's a healthy microbiome which maintains good health for them. So all these junk food, processed food, they are disastrous. They have horrible consequences on microbiome. And still worse, if we continue to consume this food for a longer time, it becomes irreversible. So then any amount of good food you consume, you won't get a good microbiome. So that is something which we should remember.
Okay. That's quite scary, and considering the amount of processed food that we are eating day in, day out, I think we really need to give it a very strong thought. Moving on, talking about, I know that both our panel experts today are looking at the gut microbiome specifically from the Indian kitchen and, like Indian culinary practices. So, Dr. Khan, I would like to ask you, what are some of the typical cooking practices in the Indian kitchen that could lead to bad gut health, in your opinion?
Yeah, if I talk about the kitchen practices, like broadly, there may be what you are cooking and how you are cooking. There may be so many components of it. So there is a change, like, from our traditional dietary habits. That is obvious now. Even in the villages also, you find processed foods and everything in the kitchen, going to the kitchen. And the ingredients that have been in our tradition, those things are getting diminished in our kitchen. And mostly people are relying on the processed foods. So in general, which is not good for gut. But one thumb rule that we should not forget, that our gut microbes, they love natural foods, like, vegetables, diversity, different colors, and from different sources, because the dietary fibers like celluloses, hemicelluloses, they are the things that goes to our colon, like distal part of our intestine. Like if we are taking some processed foods which are rich in refined sugars, they will be immediately digested and absorbed within small intestine. Okay, it will not be going beyond. But our bacteria, they are waiting in the colon, in the distal part. So something that should reach there, and the fibers are the things that will not be digested by our human body, but they will reach the colon, so that this bacteria can proliferate and they will produce a lot of short chain fatty acids, mostly butyric acid and these things, which are very good for our health. And so any dietary components, like, our traditional things like vegetables, lots of vegetables, and they should not be overcooked, like, fried in a pan, like, with so many refined oil and these things. So you are destroying a lot of, other components like phenolic compounds, which have very antioxidative properties. and they can also change the redox potential in your gut, the antioxidant materials. And those are, if you fry, then obviously, because everybody knows that if you heat anything having antioxidant property, they will be reduced. So they will lose their property. And then, so this is one of the part, like, so you should include more vegetables, more fruits, and anything that has either dietary fibers or resistant starch, like, raw banana, raw potatoes, and these things. And these
Okay.
resistant starch, they resistant means they are resistant to digestion in our small intestine, so that they can reach the colon, and where our main microbes partners they are living. So that is one part. And again, as I mentioned, like frying too many things, and then this will destroy our food value. And also we should like traditionally our Indian system had a lot of fermented food products. If you look at the different site, like in South India, you have most of the foods are some way they are fermented. If you come to the Northeast, diverse range of fermented food products. Like if you go to Gujarat, in that area, again, the dhokla is also fermented food.
Yeah.
Dhokla is a fermented food. And then if you go to South, it's a whole lot. Everything every batter is prepared by fermentation of either pulses or rice in some way. So this is another aspect. Fermented foods should be more in our kitchen than our vegetables, fruits, and less frying. And this way we can improve the food value so that they will be good for our microbes. Yeah. Anything else that you want to hear?
Yes. So while we speak about fermented food, moving a step further, there is a lot of discussion about prebiotic and probiotic foods. So while I would want Dr. Khan to answer, what are
Yeah.
some of the prebiotic food in that is easily available in our Indian kitchen that can be included for good gut health?
Like everywhere, just to say, if you take from nature, don't go for any processing. Like
Okay.
all the millets now our government is promoting, they are very rich in your prebiotics. Then, as I said, like vegetables, fruits, they are rich in prebiotics. Okay, if you consume them in a substantial manner, you don't need supplementation. Don't need supplement of prebiotics because they are naturally rich in prebiotics. Again, I will just mention about the children who are like breastfed. No? Breastfeeding is very, very important. Like
Okay.
the moms who do not have time, or some way the babies are not being fed with the mother's milk, they deprive their babies with the prebiotics and probiotics that is naturally been in the mother's milk. And this mother's milk is rich in prebiotics like the galacto-oligosaccharides. That is very unique. And human milk contains so many diverse type of prebiotics like galacto-oligosaccharides. You won't find anywhere in the animal kingdom. So there is also the hypothesis that there is so much diversity of oligogalactosaccharides in human milk. That's why probably our brain is very different compared to other animals. So there are so many hypotheses. And so talking about prebiotics, you don't have to go for supplementation from these things, but only stay with nature, consume more fruits and vegetables. Naturally, you will get enough prebiotics. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Khan. Moving on to Dr. Shouche. I would like to ask you, what is a probiotic food and what are those, easily available probiotic foods in the Indian, cooking practices?
So the best probiotic food in the Indian cooking is, I think, throughout the India, we all consume curd.
Yes.
And that is the best available fermented food, provided you prepare it at home and do not buy a ready-made pack from the supermarket. If you set the curd at home as per your desired taste, that is the best fermented and the cheapest fermented food anybody can have. Besides that, regionally there are many fermented foods. Like it's in South India, we have idli, which do contain, I mean, the studies have shown that though idli is steamed, one would expect that the bacteria in the idli would be killed. But the studies have shown that even after steaming, some of the good bacteria still remain in the idli, because steaming time is short and idli has a lot of protein, so it gives protection to bacteria and those bacteria still remain. So, and then if as you go to Northeast, they have tremendous variety of fermented foods. So I think the curd is the prime fermented food, fresh milk and the traditional fermented foods of your region are the best source of probiotics that one can have. And the best prebiotics, as Mujibur also mentioned, are the fresh raw vegetables is the source of good prebiotics, because leafy vegetables, they would promote the growth of good bacteria in the gut. So if you do that, you don't have to take any commercial preparation.
Amazing, amazing. We all have it around us. All we need to do is open our eyes, have a look at what is best for us, and make it at home, right? So that's what our expert panelists are asking us to do. Now, moving on, I would like to ask Dr. Khan. We understand and we all know that your research has extensively been on research, I mean, looking into the Indian gut microbiome. So are there any factors that make the Indian gut microbiome very unique? What has it been so far? Like, what does it look like so far?
Yeah, you see, it's not very uniqueness about Indian microbiome. Their microbiome throughout the world. Basically, there are three signatures. Like if you want to know anybody,
Yes.
the microbiome, what does it look like? So it will fall in either of three categories. One technically we call rich in Prevotella, then Ruminococcus, and then Bacteroides. So what does it mean? Like the total diversity of different bacteria, if you consider it's 100%, so one of these will dominate, like it will be more than 30% in most of the cases. Also, there are some exceptions, but mostly they will fall either of these three categories. But our Indian microbiome falls under Prevotella. This is called enterotype of Prevotella. Now, there is a hypothesis that we have this because we consume a lot of carbohydrate-rich food compared to Western countries. They consume a lot of protein-rich food, so their microbiome will be different. So our people who consume a lot of again the fibers and plant-derived foods like hunter-gatherers are mentioned, so they will have a different type of microbiome. But what we know from Indian microbiome is that it is rich in Prevotella, and it is because of the lots of carbohydrate we consume. Okay, so yeah, and also you get some uniqueness compared to different locations in India, within India also. Like different, we did studies in different tribal communities, like who are living in remote areas of Telangana and then Northeast India. Then we found some specific signatures, but there is very small signature. That is the variation because of diet, regional variation in the diet, and also their genetic background and also geography. So overall, we know that is rich in Prevotella, and that is because of our lots of carbohydrate we consume.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Khan. Dr. Shouche, I would like to ask you this question. When it comes to our lifestyle, other than the diet, right? So what kind of lifestyle habits can make the, health and the gut better, in your opinion?
See, another thing which is closely linked to the gut microbiome and health is the physical activity.
Okay.
So it's again interrelated. The physical activity promotes the good microbiota, and good microbiota helps you in good physical activity. And it also goes to a realm where certain type of bacteria present in the gut, they give you more physical strength. So those studies are also there, and people have tried to use those bacteria to increase the physical endurance of the athletes. So physical activity is one important factor. And then also there have been some recent studies where people have studied our body clock and the microbiome, and people who do not have a regular biological clock, in general, along with the deterioration of their health, their microbiome is also altered. So these are some of the factors other than the diet which affect the gut microbiome in a good or the bad way.
Yeah, so continuing with the same question, this is a really interesting, points that you've made with regard to biological clock as well as, physical activity. And most of us are into, work or occupations that require us to sit for long hours, right? So looking at that and the gut health, trying to protect our gut health, how much of physical activity is good? And when you're looking at the biological clock, what is a good, amount of hours of sleep that you would recommend for good gut health?
See, that is universal. The amount of sleep that is required by individual is universal. You require minimum 6 to 8 hours of sleep. But that again, there is another opinion that it is not the duration of your sleep, but the quality of your sleep, which is important. So in that case, even if you get few hours deep sleep, that gives you much rest to your body and your brain than sleeping for longer hours. So it's the quality of sleep that is more important. And amount of physical activity, again, the opinion varies, but on as to what kind of physical exercise you can have. But I personally would say that whatever is feasible for you in your lifestyle, but you should definitely spend half an hour, 45 minutes in some physical exercise. It could be in the any form. It could be a walk, it could be in a yoga, because talking about microbiome, at SKAN itself, we are taking up a project where we are looking at effect of yoga exercise on gut microbiome, whether it has any beneficial effect or not. But on the other hand, there was a publication couple of years back, and that was in a as prestigious journal as Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences, where it was shown that the meditation has positive effect on the health. It was not about gut microbiome, but it was in general about the positive effect on the health in terms of boosting your immunity. And then 2 years back, there was a paper about Buddhist monk, and there it was shown that their way of life and meditation gives you a better gut microbiome and better health. So these practices, if followed correctly, they also improve your health in general and gut microbiome in particular.
Okay, thank you. So Dr. Khan, I would like to ask you this question in terms of fasting, right? Which we see in a lot of, a lot of parts of Indian culture. Do you think it affects the gut health and the gut microbiome, or does it help in enhancing the gut health?
Yeah, so actually all of these things, like what Shouche sir has said, all things coming back to our roots. No? So we are moving away from our ancient tradition to modern lifestyle. Now we are trying to understand how they can contribute to different aspects of our health. Obviously, like, there has been a lot of questions whether there is fasting and, and there are different forms of fastings. Like if you look at, like in the South India, it's different. In Bengal, it's different. In some other parts, there are differences, like water fasting, then you have liquid fasting, then you have our Ramadan is also there. So different modes are there. And there have been lots of studies, but not very conclusive. But one thing is very clear, that it can affect this microbiome. Like, the fasting, the duration, the way you fast also have effect on your gut homeostasis.
Okay.
Homeostasis not only in the microbiome and also cellular level, like in gut epithelia, and how this epithelia will regenerate, and then what will be the fate of your autophagy, and then this thing in the epithelium, and how it will remodel your microbiome. There are different studies, and just I can give you one example. Like there's a island called Ikaria Island near Greece, where you have Orthodox, very Catholic people, and they live there like more than 100 years, and it's in the blue zone of the world where people live longer lives. And one thing you find that they fast 90 days in a year. 90 days in a year. So if you look at this, all these things, because obviously we eat a lot of things, and then you need a break. Your body needs a break. And then when you deprive your body from lots of calorie, it will try to burn your stored glycogen in the liver, and then it will go to burning your fat and lastly the protein. So, and in this process, there is a lot of remodeling, and then everybody knows what is autophagy. Like it will make the house clean. Like it will do the housekeeping job, and it will clean up all debris and everything, and it will dump somewhere, and
Yeah.
then it will restart. So, and this fasting, it helps in this way. So when other cellular parts of the body are affected by autophagy, similarly your epithelium, gut epithelium, and those also go for this kind of remodeling. And then the microbes which can survive, that is interesting, that can survive on the host derived molecules or food, they will stay there. And the pathogens or some other organisms which sustain from the diet we take, the food we take, they will go away.
Oh, so the
So
good
it's very easy to
bacteria
understand, like, because our very strictly, those are, we call commensal microbes, because they have been there since ages, and they
Yeah.
live with us, and they can depend upon the molecules, those supplied by our body, not from coming from directly from food. But the pathogens mostly they survive on this, ingested food and this thing. So if you did, like you're restricted, having restricted diet or time restricted diet, then there is a chance that there will be remodeling of everything, and there will be improvement in the gut system. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, Dr. Shouche, I think you
No,
want to
no,
say
I
something.
just have one point to add in a lighter vein, that when we are talking about fasting here, it is a real fast, not the fast where we eat lot of
Yeah.
potatoes and some
Yeah.
things made from the sabudana and all. That is
Yeah.
not a fast.
Yeah.
Here we mean a real fast.
Real fast, a real fast. Like there is no other option, because you have to have calorie deficient. Like normally, yeah, below 200 kilocalorie. So our body
Okay.
basal requirement is 1200 kilocalorie. A
Yes.
person needs 1200 minimum for basal function.
Yes.
So it should be less than that.
Achha.
Okay. So there should be some scope for burning, stored glycogen and this thing.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. This is a very interesting point when we talk about fasting and the way the fasting goes on. So our experts do say that fasting does, affect your gut health positively. Meditation has been, and physical activities do affect your gut health positively, and you can improve your gut health as well with physical activity and many other, and home cooked food, fermented food, and so many other good bacteria can be formed with these kind of practices. Moving on, I would like to ask one question to Dr. Shouche, sir. You've studied you've studied how bacterial makeup can vary in obese individuals, right? So can you explain if there is the gut microbiome can influence our food cravings, and what is it about these kind of food cravings in obese individuals?
Yeah, so again, first and foremost, I mean, when initial studies were done in obese and lean individuals, it was quite clear that the microbiome of the obese individuals is different from lean individuals, and it's a kind of paradox, because if you really look at it, if you look at the microbial metabolism, the microbes present in the gut of the obese individuals are more efficient, because they break down the food that we have eaten more efficiently, convert that into glucose. But probably this microbiome was evolved in the evolution when the food was scarce. So these microbes were, evolved to be efficient, because the nature wanted us to extract as much energy as possible from the available food. But over the course of evolution, what has happened is that since there is a plenty of food, then that this good quality has become a bad quality now. So that's the reason the energy is extracted efficiently from the food, but it is not stored. It is not used, so it gets stored as a fat. and as against that, the microbes present in the gut of the lean individuals, they are less efficient. They are not so good at extracting out the energy. So that's the reason the food that is consumed is not digested to the completion, and the energy still remains in that. So for them, for that individual now today, it's an advantage because the person can eat more but still does not put on the weight. So this is how it has evolved historically, but that's how the obesity and this microbiome started. And today, if you look at the literature, I know for sure that it is about the craving for chocolates, that it was published few years back that the craving for the chocolates have microbial origin. Similarly, craving for many other food items also has been proven to be from microbial origin. And I have already said earlier that the microbial metabolism directly or indirectly affect the brain. So that way there is a link for every aspect of your behavior. There is a microbial link.
Wow, very. I would never want this webinar to end. There are so many more questions. Even our audiences have a lot of questions. So I must say that we've come to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much, panel members, for giving out so much of knowledge about the gut microbiome, the gut health, the good gut, the bad gut, and everything. But I'm sure our audiences have a lot of questions. And before that, I would like to thank Dr. Shouche and Dr. Khan for being present here. I'm sure now we take up the questions from the audiences. I will just read out, due to time constraints, we can probably maximum take up 2 questions from the audiences. So yeah, one of the questions says, what kind of treatments are we seeing directed towards the gut microbiome for various conditions? And for example, what is the state of FMT in India? I repeat, what kind of treatments are directed towards the gut microbiome for the various health conditions that are prevalent in, and for example, what is the state of FMT in India?
So, I mean, I would answer this question in a different way. I would not take it as a treatment directed towards gut microbiome, but the treatments arising out of gut microbiome. So FMT, as whoever has asked the question has pointed out, FMT started historically for Clostridium difficile diarrhea. And in India now, in many places, FMT is done primarily for IBD, Crohn's disease, and colitis. It is used in smaller cities. It is used as a treatment for these diseases. However, globally, the microbiome therapies have gone long way. I mean, it is no more restricted to FMT, which is rather crude because you just take the fecal this thing from a healthy person and give it to the patient. People have tried to develop consortia, people have tried to develop specific microbes, and they have moved further where from a microbe they have identified a chemical which is effective. And many such chemicals are already in different stages of clinical trial, and the range is very vast. It is not only to IBD, but it is also in colorectal cancers and melanomas. These drugs are in trial. So just 2 weeks back, I was in Padram Institute, UK, and there they have a chemical identified from gut bacteria, which they use in combination with a standard drug for colorectal cancer, and then they get 100% efficacy. So gut microbes and compounds derived from them have come a long way, and the future is, I mean, very big for these therapies.
Thank you, Dr. Shouche. We can take up one more question, and there are 2 questions on a similar idea, that is antibiotics and gut microbiome. I would like to read out this question. Why is that we get a probiotic supplement every time we take an antibiotic course, and how effective are oral probiotic medications that we get today? I leave it to any one of you to answer.
Mojibur, you want to
Yeah,
take?
yeah. Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Actually, very good question. Like it's a very classical question. Like, we know that antibiotics does. It's a most of the antibiotics they are broad spectrum, and then they will kill non-target good bacteria. So they are not specific for pathogen. They will kill some good bacteria. So when it kills the bad bacteria and good bacteria as well, so there is a chance of dysbiosis that we talked about. Now,
Huh.
how to rectify? There is no answer to that. Like classically, we know that, okay, if we have some probiotics, it might lead to. And many of the probiotics earlier mentioned also they are whether clinically proven or not. There were a lot of questions on the marketable, on the probiotics those are in the market. But now some data have come up with for some probiotics. So I may not name them here, but I think doctors are prescribing good probiotics nowadays, and that should be taken after the course of or during the course of your antibiotics, so that your gut at least there is a chance of getting the dysbiosis back to homeostasis. And it is said that if you take antibiotic for a long time and several times, your gut ecosystem may get degraded over time. And that probiotics and then fermented foods, there is a chance that it may help reducing the bad effect of antibiotics.
Okay, so it's on audience demand. We have two more questions, and we will take it up. How much fermented food is required in one meal? One meal for 3 to 4 days in a week. Could you please explain this? Says one of our audiences. How much fermented food is good?
Yeah, so sir, should I answer this?
Yeah, you, because you are expert in fermented
No,
food.
no. So, if you talk about fermented food, if you look at the Japanese diet, Chinese diet, almost 60% of them, are from fermented source. If you look at the diet of some tribal communities in the Northeast, you'll find that maybe around 50 to 60% coming from fermented vegetables and this thing. And now we don't know whether a person living in somewhere in Rajasthan who takes only the curd, not the other forms, how much should be taken? So when somebody asks, we just say that 1 serving or 2 servings a day. So the people who have been taking it from the childhood, so they know how much to take. Okay, but for new beginners, I will say, how much dahi should you take? 1 liter? No. Everybody knows
Yeah.
it should be around 60 to 100 ml. So you take at least 2-3 servings of different forms of fermented food. Milk, fermented food, yogurt or curd. And then you take another 1 or 2 forms, like 1 or 2 servings. So I think that should be a good combination for beginners.
Per day.
Per day, yeah.
Okay. Throughout the day, right? Not every meal.
No, not every meal. Like once in a day, you take
Once.
at least two form of different fermented food products. That is thumb rule. Like it said that you take at least three types of vegetables, different colors, and then at least 2 different types of fruits of different colors, and then 2 or 3 types of different fermented food every day to live longer and to have better gut health.
So it's 3:3:2. You have 3 types of colored.
So you can change it a bit, but that's my rule. I'm just talking about it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Khan. We have one more question. Considering sports and athletics has also been gaining momentum, should gut health be a part of an athlete's dietary regime? How significant is it to bring a positive effect on an athletic performance? This is one of the questions from the audiences. I leave it to any one of you to respond.
Yeah, so I think I would say something, and then Mojibur has to add something. It is definitely a very important aspect of athletes' health. And as I mentioned some time back, that there are publications where it was shown that professional athletes, the gut microbiome is different from that of a non-athlete, and there are a specific group of bacteria that is present in higher numbers in the professional athletes, and there is a biochemical reason also as to how these bacteria help athletes performance. So there is no question about athletes maintaining a good gut microbial health. And I mean, again, as I said, that people also went on further and they transferred using fecal microbiota transplantation they transferred athlete's microbiota to a non-athlete and found that that person's performance had indeed improved. So definitely there is your performance as an athlete and your gut microbiome are correlated, and I'm sure in the time to come there will be microbiome based formulations available to increase your performance as an athlete, or they may be already available abroad, I don't know.
Dr. Khan, would you like to add on to this?
Yeah, it's a very, very, very good answer. And also, I just want to inform you that athletes, and also nowadays, all our this modern day employees like working in Google, Amazon, So last week, I got a call from a company based in Pune. So they are interested in fermented food and my probiotics, next generation probiotics. I said, why are you interested? That we got a contract from these multinational companies to supply them lunch for their employees, which will be very, very nutritious and for gut health and anti-aging properties, because their employees are getting aged and they are getting a lot of complications like obesity, diabetes, also pressure due to their mental stress. And
Yes.
maybe athletes, they are also under very stress. So another important angle is like, the gut and brain, they are so tightly connected that if you can alter by food your microbes, then it can also alter your mental state. Like, stress, it's a bidirectional. Like if you have stress, then it's not, it will affect your microbiome. Then if you can, by diet, if you can alter, it can change your mood also. It can reduce your stress and anxiety. We have seen in the animal model, like using the fermented food and their probiotics. So this is very, very good aspect, like for our athletes or even our new generations who are working in the office for long hours with so much of stress and this thing. And this good food that will encourage our gut microbiome will be very wonderful future food. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Yogesh Shouche, and thank you, Professor Mojibur Khan. It was an amazing session, very insightful, very educative and informative. I'm sure we all had a lot of takeaways to, go back with. And thank you so much, audiences, for interacting, listening, and encouraging this webinar further. Thank you. And this is Dipali Malia signing off. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.